Back at it again, Cigar Spence. You know what time it is. It's time to talk about the top 10 East Texas preseason running backs. So let's get into it. Let's look at about 3 guys that didn't make it right on the outside. I think these are potential top 100 guys. They had big years last year. The first guy is a sophomore. It's Cameron Williams from Jefferson. As a freshman, rushed for over 1,000 yards, was impressive at times, has great breakaway speed. He's a guy, he's still young. You know, it's maybe not like physically as mature as some of these other guys that are on the list, but he's a good natural running back. He's going to make even more plays than he made last year, and so he's a guy that I'm looking forward to watching. The next guy, Keyshawn Walls, a physical running back. He's about to be a junior from Hooks. I expect him probably to make the list. He's a two-way player. He plays running back and linebacker over there in Hooks. Had some decent tape last year. Made some impressive runs. He's a physical back. He also can separate. So I think he's going to have a good year, possibly a top 100 guy as well. And then lastly, Kedron Young, the junior from Lufkin. He had a pretty he was hurt last year, but it was still kind of impressive to watch him run the ball. He's a big dude, 6 foot, probably about 205. He can really run downhill. You can tell that he's a physical guy, gets downhill, is physical on the attack. He's got an offer from UTSA, so we'll see what he does this year. He played a little quarterback last year. This year he should be the running back. So they ought to see the best out of Kedron Young this year. So it'll be interesting to see where he ends up as far as top 100 goes. So here we go, the top 10. At number 10, senior from Kilgore, Isaiah Ross. And Ross is impressive. Ross got his opportunity to play some last year and some cleanup duty, and then in the second half, and Isaiah can run the football. He runs with such urgency. You can tell that he's trying to score almost every time he gets out. He's a physical runner. He finishes runs. He puts his shoulders down. He's about 190 pounds, but he's a guy that can play like he's 220 sometimes. Plays with a lot of passion. Ran for over 700 yards and 8 touchdowns as the backup to Devin Ryder last year. So I'm expecting big things from Ross in that run-heavy offense to try to bring some balance to Demarion Van Zandt over there in Kilgore. At number 9, Ashton Hayes, a senior from Gilmer. Last year he went for over 1,200 yards and 25 touchdowns, and he had 40 catches for 527 yards and 3 touchdowns. The absolute production is there. I don't think he's as talented as some of these other guys that's on this list, but as far as production goes, this guy's production is going to go through the roof because there's no Brandon Tennyson. Now there's Caden Tennyson, the younger of the two. I don't think Gilmer's going to be as heavy. I think Ashton Hayes has to take some of that load on, and I think his rushing ought to be up to 1,500. And he's also a great receiver in the screen game, and he broke a lot of screens this year. And he's a good receiver for what Gilmer does in that spread offense. So I think just because he produces and how much he produces, he stands to be on this list at number 9. At number 8, DeCo Wright, DeCo Wright, junior to be from Dangerfield. This guy is a slasher. He ran for over 1,700 yards last year, 1,696, 1,700 yards basically last year, 19 touchdowns on the ground. Also caught for 8 catches in the screen game for 144 yards and 1 touchdown. DeCo has all the moves in the world, and I think he should be even more explosive. He should be older, more physically stronger, faster. He's going to finish even more runs. He is a slasher, man. He can really run. I would love to see him against better competition sometimes, because it's really easy for him. It's easy sometimes for these guys, and so I'm really anxious to see what he looks like this year. Should poke the load a little bit more. Sophomore quarterback Chase Johnson is replacing D. Lewis, and so you would think the load should go on to DeCo a little bit more this year. So maybe a 2,000-yard season for DeCo Wright this year. At number 7, Ricky Stewart, the sophomore from Chapel Hill, went for 900 yards last year and 6 touchdowns, and was one of the crazy stories over there in Chapel Hill. 2 freshmen coming over and taking over that offense, going off in the last 13 games of their season. He rushed for 900 yards, 6 touchdowns, became the starter by the end of the year, and he made impact runs all throughout the season. He had an 89-yard run in the 5th round of the playoffs against Austin LBJ. He is just a player that has play pedigree, and he's going to make plays this year. It'll be interesting to see where he fits in the main cog. The Chapel Hill has so many receivers. There's guys that I don't even know about that's going to come up for their offense, but you already have Deuce McGregor, you already have Tyson Berry, you already have Brisbane as a running threat himself. So where does Ricky Stewart fit into the offense? He's going to be the main running back, but where does he fit into the whole piece of the pie? That just goes to see how far and how high he'll finish this year. So he's a talented back, and it'll be interesting to see what happens for Ricky Stewart this year, his sophomore year. At number 6, J.Q. Davis, a machine over there in Marshall. Went for 1,400 yards and 11 touchdowns. Also caught a touchdown and about 160 yards as well. He was the offensive player of the year in his district, and he wore opponents down. And if they could run the ball on you, they absolutely did. I mean, there's times where he had 250. He went over 250 like 3 or 4 times last year. When he has the hammer, he uses it, and he's a hell of a football player and tough to bring down. He has good moves. He has a skill set, and he's going to be the bell cow for what Coach Alvarez wants to do down there in Marshall. They really like to run the football and play that physical style, and J.Q. Davis is probably the perfect back for what they want to do. At number 5, Jiren Ross from Bonham. Probably never heard of this guy. He's really he's like the freaking Tyreek Hill of whatever conference they're in. He is extremely fast. I don't know how fast he is on a 40, but I know he's faster than everybody he's playing. He absolutely takes off. He had 20 touchdowns last year, over 1,400 yards. He's about 5'7", 175 pounds. It looks like he's got jet stream coming out of him. You can see the acceleration burst that he has. It looks like he's playing like Sonic sometimes. It's insane. Jiren Ross is real deal speed, and that's why I think he's the number 5 back in East Texas coming through. At number 4, Dawson Pendergrass. He's been a production machine for the last 2 years for Mineola. He looks like Derrick Henry out there sometimes in that 22, 6'3", 215, running hard, running tall, running strong. Once he breaks, he's kind of like Derrick Henry. He can go up the middle, but his best run is the stretch. Once he gets to the edge and turns those shoulders forward, it's over with. He also plays defense for the Mineola, plays safety for them as well, but he is the offense, and he's been the offense the last 2 years. Last year he went over 2,300 yards and had 21 touchdowns. I don't see it changing. I don't see why they wouldn't ride. I don't see why they wouldn't ride his coattails all the way to the end. So at number 4, a guy that's probably going to be rushed for 300 probably 2 or 3 times this year, Dawson Pendergrass. At number 3, McKenzie McGill. At number 3, McKenzie McGill, the senior to be the Mount Vernon. This guy went over 2,100 yards last year, 37 touchdowns on the ground, and then he added about 450 yards catching for 5 more touchdowns. So he is a human joystick out there at Mount Vernon. He really looks like he's playing a video game whenever he's playing. He does some incredible jukes. He's got some incredible highlights. He really carries a load for the offense in the run game, and he's a guy that's going to have to do it again. They're replacing Caden Kaufman out wide. Caden Kaufman had crazy numbers as a receiver last year for Mount Vernon. I think McKenzie McGinn is going to have to step his load up even more. Don't be surprised if he goes for 26 to 2,700 yards this year. McKenzie McGill could absolutely go off and be the number 1 player in East Texas. So he's a really good back, and we'll see what happens. At number 2, Derrick McFarland, the junior from Tyler High. Last year, McFarland played a bunch of positions. He played receiver, he played running back, he played quarterback. This spring, he lined up at running back primarily. He's got offers from Alabama. He's got offers from all over the country because he is lightning fast. I don't know who's faster between him and Jiren Ross. I would love to see that race. But he's easily, if he ain't 1, he's number 2 then. Because both of those guys can absolutely fly. McFarland is just, he's a speed threat. He gets to stretch and he sees a crease. He can dip his pads in and out of holes. He's kind of like a point guard dipping into the lane the way he goes in and out his cuts. He can really weave through traffic at times, and he can run, and nobody catches him. That's the sad part. When he gets out there, he's gone. You ain't getting him. Last year, McFarland played a little quarterback. Don't know if he's going to have to do it this year or not. That'll be, something that Coach Holmes will have to decide what's best for him and his offense out there. But if he lines up at running back, he's a threat not only in the run game, but he's a threat in the passing game as well. So don't be surprised if he runs for about 800 yards and then catches another 1,000 more. Like, they'll use him in however they need to out there in Tyler. But I think he's the number 2 back going into this year. And at number 1, It's the junior from Longview. It's Taylor Tatum. Tatum's 5'11", 195 pounds. He's extremely fast. He's a 4-5 guy. He was on the state championship, not state champions, but the guys that made it to state this year, they finished 4th and 5th. He was a part of the 4x1 and 4x2. He can fly, and he's huge and he's tough to bring down. And if the sample that he gave us in the Denton Ryan game, the last game of the year before he was out of the game from injury, as physical as he ran that ball, then if that's the guy that we're going to get here in 2022, Taylor Tatum is going to try to probably etch his name as one of those guys in Longview. You know, he's got all the offers, he's got the attention, he's got everything, he's got the hype. Now he just has to put it out there on the field. But when you look at his ability to catch the ball, his ability to run routes and get himself open, which he's really showcased it here this summer and at camps. And then you add to his physical prowess, and he's about 200 pounds, and he's really strong, and he's really fast, and he really knows how to run the football. I don't think there's another back in East Texas that can really stand next to him. And so that's the number one guy in East Texas preseason. Let's see what happens this fall. Let's see if who comes out on top and who's the number one guy when it's all said and done.